Welcome everyone to Health Coach TV. I'm your host, Dr. Shauna Menard, and I am so excited for this episode. Welcome, Kaisha.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, we're going to dive right into giving you a proper introduction. Heads up, if you got Candida struggling with energy, you are going to want to listen in here. This is something that people struggle a lot with, and sometimes they don't even know they're struggling. So tune in, even if you've never heard of that before, because it might just be for you. There might be a reason why you just came across this. So Kaisha Lawrence is a certified integrative nutrition health coach, and she helps women with Candida curb sugar cravings and boost their energy so they can actively live a life they love. And after years of unknown symptoms, she didn't know what was happening, why she was having it, and debilitating exhaustion, she learned finally how to break free and restore her energy. And she is dedicated to her passion to help women find their fun again through helping them feel better in their bodies. Kaisha's free time is filled with walks in nature, gardening, mountain biking, and enjoying good times with good people. And I think I just saw you mountain biking not too long ago, last weekend. So welcome, Kaisha.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I am really grateful for being here.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to dive into this topic today. It's not one, I don't think we've had an episode about this before. So tell everybody, like, what is it that you do and how did you come to do this line of work? Tell us a little bit about that story. So what do you do?
Well, as you said, I help women with Candida boost energy and curb sugar cravings so they can actively live a life they love. And I came to this because I originally started in the health field as a massage therapist. And as a manual therapist, I found that the people who utilize massage therapy as a complement to all of their other self-care practices really needed less massage, and my treatment would go further as compared to the people who only used massage. That was their one self-care practice. Otherwise, they didn't take very good care of themselves. And I really began to feel like a prescription drug, if you will, where people wouldn't take very good care of themselves, and then they would lean on me to make them feel better. And really, the problem was that I could only make them feel better for a really short amount of time. And so I began to realize that the real work has to come from within, and that you can get as many massages as you want, but if you can keep yourself in dis-ease as well.
Yeah. And, I, as a medical doctor myself, I felt, the same way. I'm like, there's so much more that people could be doing to take control of their health that they don't even know about. So tell us a little bit about your journey with Candida. Like, how did that happen? What were some of the symptoms that you were experiencing? What did that look like for you?
Well, as I began to learn as a massage therapist, I started to do my own work. Mm-hmm. And I would do cleanse after cleanse, but I would always go back to the same sad life, so I'd always just end up back there. So then as life continued on and it got really stressful, I ended up with debilitating exhaustion and anxiety and depression. And for the most part throughout my life, I'd really been quite a joyful person. So this was really a dramatic shift for me to have experiencing these symptoms.
Yeah. And had you like how long, like at this point you're like a mom, and yes. and so how long had these symptoms been going on? And because I'm like, it's one year, you're tired, but like debilitating exhaustion, and you're still having to function, you're still having to have your massage practice back at that time, and you're still having to be a mom and show up, but it is hard, and you're trying some of these things. How long had these symptoms been going on for?
And truly, I was a single mom as well. So it was a double whammy. And the first diagnosis I got of IBS was when I was 16 years old. So this had been going on for 26 years. Really, I was able to maintain through my 20s and even into my 30s. But then once things got a lot more stressful in my 30s, I wasn't able to maintain. And that's when things really started going downhill. The exhaustion came in first. I literally went to my doctor and asked her for a prescription of Adderall. And nobody is really interested in that, right? So that really told me how exhausted I was. Luckily, she did not put me on Adderall. And so from there, I just started diving deeper into what I can do to help myself.
Yeah. And so how did you turn this around? So how'd you go from that? And then now you kind of broken through some of that anxiety, that depression and exhaustion. So like there is a happy ending to this. How did you get from there to all of a sudden, breaking free to doing this and yeah, tell us a little bit more about that. How did you go from point A to point B? Or is that why you decided to help other women go through this? Tell us a little bit more about tell us a little bit more about the happy ending.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, through the cleansing process that I had done in the early years, once I realized that I had Candida overgrowth, I knew what to do with my food. So I felt really fortunate that I had stepped through those steps. So step one was just changing the food, which then decreased my inflammation and allowed me to begin to think straight. And really, it was quite an amazing shift once I started with my food. It was like nothing, like my son could poke me all day long and I wasn't fazed. And it was just a dramatic shift in terms of feeling the anxiety and depression just a few weeks earlier. Yeah. So that was the very first shift. And then once I got back to, off of the cleanse, I realized that some of the symptoms were starting to come back. And so from there, I knew I had to dive deeper into the process and change more than just my food.
Yeah. And you were able to do that. We're going to dive into anyone who's listening here. We're going to dive into what does that look like. So you come over onto the other side of it. You realize there's more to it. And is that what led you to become a health coach? Is that your success with your own self? Is that what led you over into becoming a health coach?
Well, that's a combination of things. Like first was from the massage therapy perspective, really seeing that there were people that just didn't know that they had the capability to help themselves. And so I began to want to help people on a deeper level then. Yeah. And then after this experience of finding this wellspring of energy that I had no idea was there, and I literally had to contain sometimes. And also hearing my son say the words, "Mom, you lose it a lot less." I mean, that's a win, right?
That's a truth meter. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So getting his feedback and feeling the difference in my life, I look around and see exhausted moms everywhere, and I know I can help them. And so that's where I began to really step into a different role of helping other people as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's really great to give some of that stuff that you had to go through the hard way and long, hard way some meaning. And you can help people get there a lot quicker, a lot easier, a lot faster than it took you when you're trying to, wondering what's wrong with me and thinking, is it just because I'm a single mom? Is that it? And sort of feeling like, and you want to be, you want to be both parents for that child. And, so I appreciate the challenges that you had to go through, but to be able to help somebody else now, so rewarding, so transformative, so great. So tell us, I'm imagining people are, on the call here, and they might be having some of these symptoms. Maybe they're a single mom, maybe they're not a mom, but maybe they have no energy, maybe they're exhausted, maybe they're like, I got anxiety and depression and things. Tell us a little bit more about that. Like, your transformation is truly incredible. Let's dive into it deeper. How did this all come to a head for you? A lot of times there's like a turning point moment. How did this come to a head for you? Or like, okay, change things?
Well, really, it came to a head during the pandemic, as many of us have found that. I was practicing a Kundalini yoga practice, and it's called Sat Kriya. And the purpose of the practice is to bring the old stuff out and allow it to release, right? And so during that practice, my anxiety and depression just reared up really it was more intense than I had been experiencing. And so from there, I just began to really dive deep into that. I was so sad. I was so sad during that time. And so I knew that I didn't want to lean on pharmaceuticals. And I knew that my body, I know my body's a healing machine. I'd already experienced that through being a massage therapist,
Yes.
really knowing the capability of the body. And so I just began to listen, and I stepped into the Candida process, and I just started doing my work, like chipping away at the things that I know I could do. And then I would reach another level, and I would just continue to hold the course and do the work.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So so how do you work? How did you do it? How does this work? How do you work with your clients? Like if people are like, okay, so just doing massage wasn't enough to turn things around, or just doing this wasn't enough to turn things around. What is enough to turn things around? How do you do this? I know that you are an expert at this. And I know that you can explain this a lot better than most. So how do you work with people? What does this look like when somebody is in this, before state that's not very fun at all?
Well, through the years that I have gone through the process and the research of how to help people with Candida and how to help myself with Candida, I really found it comes down to 3 main steps. And the first step, as I said, we're going to make a shift around food. And really how to be successful in that is to make the shift based on you. So then you don't have to feel restricted for the rest of your life, because that's not a good time, right? And it's not sustainable.
Right.
So we want to create sustainable change.
Yes.
So from there, you have to learn how to become friends with your stress, because the stress is not going to go anywhere. So we begin to learn to soothe our systems, right? Because that's just a huge part of the process. And then from there, this third step is updating your mindset and creating a new daily mode of operation. So then you can sustain these changes for many years to come without constant conscious effort. This is just your new way of being.
I love that. I love that. So, okay. So walk us through like so that's great. So the 3 steps, it's food, like sometimes we call it bio-individuality, but like really focusing on the foods that work for you, that you're not feeling like you're on a diet for the rest of your life, and that you can't have any freedom there. So I think that I agree with you. That makes sense. Stress, and yeah, I mean, things happen. The pandemic happened, so it's going to cause some stress. So these events are going to happen. So learning how to soothe your system, that'll be important. And then the mindset and daily method of operations, just in case anybody's taking notes, I'm giving you an opportunity to write those down again. So mindset, and then daily method of operation, like becoming that new identity, that new you. So then, okay, so like, let's say somebody comes in, and like, how do you work with people specifically to do that? So that's kind of like high level, and then specifically, how does that work?
Well, a lot of people come to me with exhaustion, anxiety, and depression, and they just don't know why they have it. So I walk them through my 10-step program. I work really, really closely with clients individually, and we work virtually. So I can work with anyone, anywhere. And I just hold the space to help them stay accountable and support them through their process. We're going to really, like you said, use bio-individuality, and I'm going to teach them how to listen to their own body and figure out what really works for them. And that's how we create sustainable results. Like that's why people come to me, is because they're looking for sustainable results.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. And the other thing that I always like when I have subject matter experts, so, Candida, obviously you can help people with more than just that, but that's kind of something that is near and dear to your heart. You feel a passion for helping these women with. So when I have these people, I always like to sort of pick their brain a little bit, and because you have a great perspective from that. And so I always look at, what are the common myths? What's the biggest myth, say, that people have when it comes to Candida? Because when people are struggling with something, they're trying something that's not working, or it's only one piece of a puzzle and they don't have the other pieces. So while we have you, from your perspective, what's one of the myths when it comes to Candida?
Well, there's actually two big myths when it comes to Candida. And the first is that you want to kill all the Candida in your body. And that is not true. Candida is a functional yeast that's within our gut that helps us absorb nutrients. It's absolutely vital that we have it. So a lot of people come in like, just it's the same with a lot of dis-ease. People will say, we just have to kill that off. And that's really not the truth. What we're really looking to do is create balance within the body. And we're working within the gut microbiome at that time as we're working for balance. And so we just want to calm that Candida overgrowth and then help everything balance, bring in the new good bacteria to help balance. And yeah, we create balance through the biome.
Awesome. I love that. Now you said there were two. What's the second one?
Oh yeah. The second one is that you are going to have to deal with your Candida symptoms forever. That's just not my experience. I mean, most people will say that you can go into remission, but you'll never be able to get rid of your body or get rid of the Candida out of your body, the Candida overgrowth out of your body. And that's just not my experience. The body is a healing machine. We truly can tap into our innate capacity for great balance and health. And at this point, my body is 100% free of any Candida symptoms.
That's awesome. So it's just so good. I think a lot of people have just breathed a sigh of relief. I mean, there is like true hope. I mean, because if you're told like it's never going to get any better, then it's like, well, why even bother? I mean, like, we're just going to keep a lid on it, but you're always going to struggle with it. And innately, I think we know that can't be right. That can't be right. So it's really good to have, gone through it, but usually it's because there's some sort of a missing link and or a paradigm shift that we have to do there when we're looking at that. So it's really great news for anybody who is tuning in and struggling with some of that stuff right now. Like, hope and help is on the way. So let's talk about food a little bit. So you mentioned food as one of those first steps. Like, how and why is food important in this process?
Well, food just helps our body on a cellular level. Right? So it's going to just decrease the inflammation. It's going to help us be able to think clear and really dive deeper into that healing process. Because food is just, like I said, the first step. I had a mentor who did the Candida diet. She was on the Candida diet. There's a specific diet out there that's called the Candida diet. And she was practicing that for 7 years and her symptoms came back. So that to me I was grateful that she was able to give me that information. So then as I saw my symptoms come back after I got off my detox, I recognized that it was much more than just the food that was going to help me really get to that deeper level of healing.
Yeah, and that experience probably led to the myth that you just talked about, which was that you're always going to have it. You're always going to struggle with it. You're never going to, the best you can hope is remission, but you're always going to have it. And so from your perspective is the reason that's a myth is because a lot of people have that experience. But now from this other level of looking at it from the perspective of being someone who's 100% symptom free is, that was one really important piece of the puzzle, but not the only one. So, and then you talked about those other, two big steps there. So for our viewers and listeners here, what are some tips that you could share with them if they're kind of finding themselves somewhere in this situation? Like, what are some things that you would recommend? Some simple things that if they're like, well, this is really great, but I feel bad right now. What can I do? What's something that I could start to do right now to point me in the right direction?
Well, I mean, the first thing is just drinking water, right? Like, I know it sounds so simple, but many people are not drinking enough water. And so the goal we want to aim for is half of your body weight in ounces every single day. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds like a lot of water for some people, but I kind of feel like it's like, you're shooting for the moon, you're going to land upon the stars, right? Yeah. So if you're shooting for half of your body weight in ounces, you're going to get way more than if you're shooting for 16 ounces, right? So just go for the goal and then get where you get.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And any other tips you want to share with them?
Oh, sure. Yeah. There's, really just eliminating the added sugars and really becoming aware of how many added sugars are in everything. You really have to become your own advocate because no one else is doing it for you. I mean, there's so much. You can really just eat whole foods and listen to your body in regards to that, because sometimes even if it's a broccoli, maybe that doesn't work for you, right? Or, you know, like, so we just have to really listen to your body and figure out which whole foods are best going to serve you.
Yes.
I mean, we can try to eliminate the negative feedback loop that's happening like through news and media. So you really just want to pay really close attention to what you consume, not just food, but all the things that we're consuming on a daily. So we really just want to try to stay on the sunny side of life, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And I think those are all great, easy things to do. And sometimes in their simplicity, like they're easy to do, easy not to do. But there's power. And people are like, okay, yeah, drink water. Okay. But it really makes a difference. I know when I was helping people with weight loss, that water really made a difference. That one thing it's a great anti-ager. It's a great like detoxifier. It's a hydrator. It helps circulation. It's important. We need water. And so it's important, and most people aren't having enough. So, you know, actually doing some of those things will really shift and move the needle out there. That, and knowing that there is hope and you can get there. You can break free from this, that it's possible because you've done it and you've helped others do it. So when you're working with people and you're implementing these changes and you're working with them and you're looking at, okay, how can we soothe their system even though they're still in a stressful situation? How can we like look at what foods are great for them, which foods are not so great for them? You're sorting all of this stuff out. You're coming up with a lifestyle that works for them and their family and their unique situation. So as you're working with them and you're getting great results, what are some of the like spin-off benefits that you've seen? Because I know that this is a really common fun thing. Like people go in with wanting one result, but there's a whole bunch of other things that happen. So what are some of the spin-off benefits? And maybe share a story or two about something that you've seen in terms of that.
Yeah, sure. It's been really amazing to watch the women go through the program, and literally whatever it is that they're looking for, they have created for themselves. I mean, one woman lost weight. Another woman had a lot of relief from PMS. And that was one of her main, she was really had a lot of fear around her PMS. And she came to a call and she said, my period just snuck right up on me. I didn't even know. There was zero PMS. So that was amazing. Another woman had, you know, relief from hot flashes, clearing of brain fog. I had one woman who was just told from her doctor that she needed to get on a different prescription because the old prescription had been giving her diarrhea, and she'd been on the medication for 10 years. So she was going to switch prescriptions, and the new medication was going to cost her $600 a month. So she came to me and she said, I don't want to do that. And so we began to work together, and amazingly, after our time together, she went back to her doctor, and her doctor had said her A1C was lowered to the point where they were just going to monitor her rather than put her on that new prescription.
Awesome. So good. Yeah, that's really powerful that you'll see some of those things, because when you bring things into balance, you're bringing your blood sugars into balance, you're bringing your hormones into balance, then, you know, things get balanced. And so it starts to function more like they were meant to function. Awesome. Any other examples or stories of spin-off benefits that you want to share?
Oh, I mean, crying is one thing that I find a lot of women come to me like they can't stop crying. And that has been something that more than one client has been able to do. Like that's been their main goal. And literally one client did a happy dance on the call yesterday because she was not crying at work when something upset her. And it's just those things that just can increase our confidence. And then it just accumulates from there, right? I mean, these little steps that we take create massive change.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, and it allows them to be more resilient, you know, and be able to take these things on. And I know you have many, many, many stories. So this is awesome. I'm loving this, Kaisha. I know you have, we've just scratched the surface on things. This is just the tip of the iceberg. But if there are people listening in and they're like, I want to know more about this, or I'm wondering if I'm like, I don't even know if I have Candida, but I certainly, maybe I'm teary, or maybe I think my hormones are out of whack, or I would like I would just like some of the spin-off benefits. Well, let me just, before we just find out how people can connect with you, let's just talk about that. Do they have to have Candida in order to connect with you? Or how often do people actually know they have Candida, or does it matter? Let's just chat about that for a second.
Yeah, well, it's a great question, because as I stated, I had Candida for 26 years and did not know. I mean, the symptoms that I had in high school were cradle cap, which is, on the scalp, dandruff. And these are things that people really just aren't aware can be connected to our gut health, right? And no doctor through all my years ever connected it. It's not there for us. So absolutely not. You don't have to have Candida to get benefits through my program. I mean, anything that's going to be a dis-ease, the whole point of the program is to just bring us back to ease. Our natural space is when we're at ease. And so right now we're just out of whack. So all we really have to do is realign with that ease, no matter what it is that you're experiencing.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, this has been an absolute delight. You're an amazing human being. We just love connecting with you. I love hearing about what you're doing and all the work that you've done. If people are looking to connect with you, if they have questions or they want to find out more, how can they connect with you?
They can connect with me on my website at kaishalawrence.com. And that, do you want me to spell that out? Is that helpful?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so it's KAISHALAWRENCE.com. And on my website, there's a starter kit in case anybody wants to just go ahead and get started. In case they're not ready to connect with me quite yet, we can just get them going with a starter kit and help them start to find ease immediately.
Awesome. Awesome. So that's Kaisha Lawrence. Love that name, Kaisha. So Kaisha Lawrence, LAWRENCE.com, in case you're listening in rather than visually in. So KaishaLawrence.com. And yeah, check her out. There's a common Candida starter kit that she's so generously providing to help point you in the right direction. And she's very generous with her time. I know she's a very busy lady, and about to be a lot busier. I know that she's about to be a lot busier. So if you can find a spot and you want to talk to her, hop on her calendar while you still can get a spot, because I know she's about to get very busy next week, actually. So awesome, Kaisha. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you. And thank you all for listening in to our amazing viewers who are out there, and tune in for our next episode of Health Coach TV. With that, have a fantastic week. And most of all, be good for you.